everyone! Welcome to Bedtime Stories with Duck and Goose, the Cloud Dream. The Gnome Hamlet. Long, long ago, in a distant land, where trees could talk and flowers could walk, lived the elves, fairies, gnomes, and the greedy goblins. Tales from that wonderland have been told and retold throughout the ages. Tales of magic so strange that it would make one wonder if it were really true. But there is one fine tale that not many have heard. It's the tale of a flower, Floriana, and her dream. Floriana always dreamt of riding on the clouds. She and her pet magician mouse, Cato, would watch the clouds every day as they gently rolled by in the sky. She strongly believed that her dream would one day come true. Often she would climb tall trees and try to touch the fleecy clouds, though to her they seemed so near. They were as far as they could be. Cato, through his magic spells, tried to lower the clouds for her. Ziggity-zap, ziggity-zop, let the clouds reach the mountain top. But poor Cato's magic spells rarely worked. One morning, Floriana set out with Cato on a path she had never traveled before, and found Filbert, the glowing owl, in a tree hollow. "Oh, wise owl," said Floriana, "do you know the way to the clouds?" Let me think," said Filbert, closing his eyes. After a while, he woke up and said, "Go to the mountain and ask Aldo the gnome, who is the wisest of all and lives in his toadstool home." Trekking for hours on the hard mountain trails, Floriana and Cato at last found the old gnome. Giving her a potion bottle and an old map, Aldo said, "This is an empty bottle. Fill it with seeds that are magical and priceless, like wisdom, hope, courage, faith, patience, and kindness. The map will show you the path that you need to follow, and your dream will come true in the land of the swallow." The map. Keeping the potion bottle in her bag, Floriana took the winding path shown in the map. Shortly came across Mr. Froth living in a lily pond. "Stop there," said the frog. "Those who want to take this path need to answer my question or face my wrath." An ageless fire that shines like gold, a big blue blanket that none can fold, white wool that cannot be spun or sold, and large diamonds that we cannot hold. Is that a question? It's a riddle. "The sun, the sky, the clouds, and the stars," replied Floriana. "You may pass," said the frog. A tiny puff of cloud appeared in the magic potion bottle. At the base of Phobos Hill, they met Krill the badger with a hurt leg. He was crying in pain. Pitying him, Floriana and Cato started to climb up the hill to fetch him the magical healing herb. As they neared the peak, Drook, the fiery dragon living there, appeared suddenly and let out a rumbling roar. Oh, there's a dragon in this book. But Floriana faced him without fear. Then, as if by magic, there came a big bear, and Drook, upon seeing him, disappeared. Floriana brought the herbs to the badger, and he thanked her for the kindness. Another puff of cloud appeared in the magic potion bottle. Soon, Floriana and Cato reached the talking forest. "Where are you going?" trees asked her. We are on our way to the land of the swallow, to ride on the clouds, said Floriana. Ride on the clouds, indeed, sneered the trees, and began to laugh. You can never ride on the clouds, they said. Yes, I can, Floriana replied. No, you can't, said the trees. Yes, I can, she said to herself, and made her way past the trees. Floriana and Cato finally set their tired feet in the land of the swallow and took out the potion bottle, the bag. Small puffs of clouds came out of it. Grew bigger and bigger, and rose like steps to the sky. And soon they reached the floating clouds. Dancing and laughing, Floriana and Cato climbed the steps, sat on a big fluffy cloud that was silently rolling across the sky. The land below looked beautiful under the bright sunlight. The mighty hills, winding rivers, and green trees. It was a wonderful sight. At dusk, the full moon rose, lighting up the white clouds, and the land below in its soft light. The twinkling stars up above were like diamonds in the dark blue sky. Hours sped like minutes, and soon it was time to go home. Floriana was overjoyed that her dream at last had come true. Ever after, whenever she looked at the clouds in the sky, she would hear a voice say, "When you believe you can, you will." The end. I don't want to sleep. At night, when most kids were dozing so deep, Michael could never fall fast asleep. His mother would read him one book or two. His father would sing until his face turned blue. All day, Michael ran and played and kicked balls. But then he'd just shrug and say, "But I'm not tired at all. I don't want to sleep." I just read that part. His parents had warned him in words very plain. "Your body needs sleep," they tried to explain. But every night, in a voice loud and deep, he'd bellow right back, "I just don't want to sleep." At the end of the day, their strength was all gone. But Michael did not even yet let out a yawn. Last, Dad announced with a big sleepy groan, "Well, fine then. Good night. Go to bed all alone." But being alone was boring indeed. He finally called, "What I really don't need." And I don't want... Oh, okay, I see. Sorry, there was an extra quotation mark that got me confused. But being alone was boring indeed. He finally called, "What I really don't need and I don't want is to sleep." He started to yell, "I already tried and it didn't work well." He's got a sassy patati attitude. Yeah, it does sound like Duck when he first got him. Although Duck had PTSD when we first got him, but now he's fine. I can even tell. He's sleeping. But his parents warned, "Be careful, my dear. If you say it 3 times, at least so we hear, children who can't or won't understand are taken away to Never Sleep Land." Could you not have thought up of a better name than Never Sleep Land? That doesn't sound very real. Michael thought hard about what they had said. decided he'd rather stay up instead. So Michael decided to go there right now, for his parents had already let him know how. Yeah, it does sound like they made up a name they made up at 5 p.m. on a Friday. Very much like, it needs to be at the printer in 2 minutes. Never Sleepland. I don't want to sleep. I don't want to sleep. I don't want to sleep. Alright, it's not your dresser's fault. Allergies. Gross. The third time he said it, a small man appeared. Out of the closet, so lithe and pointy-eared. A jaunty small gnome, about the size of your hand, came in to fetch him to Never Sleep Land. Hello, little boy, said the funny small man. Don't like sleep? Well, here's a new plan. Come right away, and soon you will see a land with no sleep. You can go there with me. That was a really weird voice that just happened. Wow. So that's the thing. Michael jumped out of bed with such a big grin. He trusted the gnome. Couldn't wait to begin. I'm so glad you're here. I'll come right away. I never get tired. I just want to play. The little man held out both his stubby hands. Sorry. I just made that whole sentence up out of my... Just because. Alright, hold on. The little man held both his stubby hands out. He said, "Close your eyes and don't look about." Michael squeezed so hard, he really tried. Till the gnome at last said, "Now, open wide." Wow, that made him sound really creepy. Michael looked and beheld a marvelous place. Swings and a roller coaster running a race. No night, only day. The sun gleaming high. No sleeping here, just a cloudless blue sky. So many children who laughed and who ran, scampering freely, as all children can. Just play here all day, the gnome said out loud, and Michael felt happy, as if on a cloud. The gnome said, "Enjoy it, but please beware. There's one major rule that I really must share. You may run and be cheerful, climb up and spin around, but never say sleepy or I must lie down." Michael agreed. Such a wonderful rule. He ran off to slide, like he loved at his school. His parents were right. There was such a place as Never Sleep Land where kids frolic and chase. Michael rode the roller coaster once and again. He met new friends who were on the same train. That doesn't rhyme. The girl's name was Ruthie. The boy's name was Sean. And all of them stayed up and never did yawn. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But then Michael saw his friends didn't look so glad. They moved very slowly. Their smiles looked sad. "What happened?" he asked. "Why those big frowns?" They answered, "We're tired. We want to lie down." He learned they'd all left their homes and their beds, but now they all wanted to lay down their heads. When they first came, they felt happy and cheery. But now all they felt was exhausted and weary. Hearing his friends, Michael felt a bit weak. Could staying awake really make things so bleak? He noticed no benches for children to sit, and what had been fun once felt harder a bit. He realized this land was not nice at all, as he watched sleepy children chasing a ball, wiping the tears that rolled down their cheeks, eyes so deeply red, and like they'd been up for weeks. Couldn't they just lay down on the ground and take a nap? Maybe I'm thinking too hard. Then Michael spent one sad hour, then two, changing his mind about this place he knew. His muscles ached, so did his head, and he deeply missed his warm, cozy bed. At last, Michael whispered across to his friends, "I'm sick of this place where the day never ends." "Shh," said the others. "Don't talk about home, and don't say you're tired. You'll anger the gnome." The children were sorry that they had ignored their parents' advice just because they were bored. They needed to rest, but they couldn't not sleep. "But how can we leave?" They wanted to weep. Then Michael hatched a plan, bold and bright. He said, "We'll go home like I came here tonight." His friends understood with a flash of surprise. They stood in a circle and squeezed shut their eyes. "I do want to sleep. I do want to sleep. I do want to sleep." All right, no need to shout. "I do want to sleep," shouted Michael at home, and his father rushed in. No sign of the gnome. "Are you all right?" he asked his young son. "I do want to sleep, Michael," said Michael. "I'm done." "Of course," said his father. "Sweet dreams, little one." Good night. The Three Little Gators. Once, three little gators lived with their mama in an East Texas swamp. One day, Mama said, "It's time you youngins set out on your own. Make sure you build houses strong enough to keep you safe from the big-bottomed bear. Tasty, tender gators are his favorite snack." Oops, that's a boar, not a bear. Let me try that one again. Wait. I saw the sun today. I was sitting in the sun all day and my brain's like, I can't think, so much vitamin D. One day, their mama said, "It's time you youngins set out on your own. Make sure you build houses strong enough to keep you safe from big-bottomed boar. Tasty, I did it again. Tasty, tender gators are his favorite snack." So the three little gators set off on their own. Soon, they came upon some rocks. "Aha," said the first gator. "A house of rocks would be safe from big-bottomed boar." "Psh, bad choice," said second gator. "Rocks are heavy and too much work." "Way too much work," said third gator. "Heavy or not, I'll build my house with rocks." First gator began rolling the rocks into a pile. His brothers waved goodbye and walked on, until, plunk, a stick landed on second gator's head. He looked up and saw in the tree above him, Buck was building a nest. "Aha! I'll build a stick house. That will be easier." "Psh, bad choice," said third gator. "It's still way too much work." Third gator waved goodbye and walked on, until... Smoosh! Third gator came to a river. He stopped to rest on the soft, damp sand along the riverbank. "Ha! A house of sand would be the easiest one to build," he said. He pushed the sand into a big pile and dug a tunnel. Then he made a door from branches. The other gator laughed. Big-bottomed boar won't even notice the house. And with that, he crawled in and fell fast asleep. Oh dear. Oh my gosh, I love the illustrations of this book. After a while, third gator was awakened by a loud noise. Snarf, 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 snarf. Little gator, let me come in. I smell tender gator skin. Third gator trembled inside his house, but he called back, Go away, big-bottomed boar. I'll never open my door. Then I'll wiggle my rump with a bump, bump, bump and smash your house. Big-bottomed boar wiggled his bottom and bumped it against third gator's house. Sand flew everywhere. Third gator ran faster than a fox after mustard. Sounds eerily familiar. Third gator ran faster than a fox after a muskrat. He scrambled through the brambles to the second gator's house. But it wasn't long before the two gators heard a loud noise. Snarf, 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 snarf. That's my favorite part. Little gators, let me in. I smell 2 tender gator skins. Chasing you has made me thinner. I need 2 gators for my dinner. I approve of this book. It's very funny. The 2 little gators shivered at the sound of Big-Bottomed Boar's raspy voice, but they answered, Go away, big-bottomed boar. We'll never open up this door. Yeah. Then I'll wiggle my rump with a bump, bump, bump and smash your house, answered Big-Bottomed Boar. And he wiggled his bottom and bumped it against the second gator's house. Sticks flew everywhere. I really like this telling of this story because it's adorable. I love the illustration style. It's really cute. Yeah, he's a thick boy. Second gator and third gator raced faster than snakes after a bullfrog. They rushed through the brush to first gator's house. But it wasn't long before the 3 little gators heard a loud noise. Snarf, 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 snarf. Little gators, let me in. I smell 3 tender gator skins. Chasing you has made me thinner. I need 3 gators for my dinner. The 3 little gators shook at the sound of Big-Bottomed Boar's terrible voice, but they called back, We'll never open up the door. Go away, Big-Bottomed Boar. Then I'll wiggle my rump with a bump, bump, bump and smash your house, answered Big-Bottomed Boar. He wiggled, he bumped, he waggled, and he thumped, but he could not smash first gator's house. I'll get you yet, Big-Bottomed Boar snorted. He climbed on the roof and squeezed into the chimney. This does sound eerily familiar. He grunted and wheezed and snorted and sneezed as he inched his way down. But the 3 little gators were ready for him. Bad choice, they called. When Big-Bottomed Boar finally dropped out of the chimney, he landed right on the hot grate of first gator's barbecue grill. I think this bottle right here says boar sauce. grill stripes burnt into his big bottom, and the big bottom boar raced out of the house faster than a thunderbolt. Then, second gator and third gator went outside and began to pile up rocks. Good choice, said the first gator, and he helped them build big, strong houses. And Big Bottom Boar never bumped his big, stripy rump their way again. The end. How to Catch a Monster. Monster, monster, 1, 2, 3. Oh, how interesting. How funny. Twitch is a silly Billy sometimes. That's very interesting. It is quite a fickle beast. Yay! Yes. Definitely, I'm gonna definitely get the Stinky Cheese Man to read this summer. So we're very excited. Oh yes, that's Mike Wazowski's cousin. Bedtime was never fun for Eric. He hated washing up, he hated brushing his teeth, and he hated putting on his pajamas. Eric would rather play games than get ready for bed. That's when Eric's mom decided to tell him about the monster. What monster, Mommy? Eric asked excitedly, jumping up and down. He loved dinosaurs and dragons and animals of every kind. I'm talking about the monster that you'll come and play with you, replied Mom. I'll tell you all about it and what to do after you're all washed up and ready for bed. For the very first time in all of Eric's 4 long years of life, he willingly took his bath, brushed his teeth, and put on his pajamas. Eric proudly smiled and declared, I'm ready! Wow, that was super, honey! Mom cheerfully beamed back. Now I'll tell you what to do. First, we head to the kitchen. But I don't want a snack. I want to hear about the monster, Eric protested. Mom grabbed Eric's hand and told him, You may not want a snack, but I know someone else who would love a snack. Eric looked into Mom's face, and she grinned and winked to him. Oh, the monster, Eric said. Eric exclaimed. Eric and Mom filled up a plate with chocolate chip cookies and returned to his bedroom and placed it next to his bed. Then Mom said, Now, you need to get under your covers and say, Monster, monster, 1, 2, 3. Won't you come out and play with me? This monster will do anything for food, especially cookies. I just instantly started signing there for a second, and I realized I only have one hand. That doesn't really work. I got it, said Eric. He leapt into his bed and pulled his covers over himself. Then he repeated what his mom told him to say after she left. Monster, monster, 1, 2, 3. Won't you come out and play with me? And I have cookies for you. Eric heard someone stomping around his room. Was it the monster? Yummy cookies. Someone cried. Eric took a peek from under his covers and saw the monster. Was it Cookie Monster? Did Cookie Monster come to play? I don't think Cookie Monster has that kind of teeth. Maybe. Those are some... I've never seen chocolate chip cookies quite like the ones pictured in this book. But I don't think they were rainbow chocolate chip cookies. Because those are still in my fridge. I have to make them. Oh, said Eric, it worked. Are you here to play with me? Grrr, said the monster. What do you want to play? Let's play horsey. Give me a ride around the room, please, Mr. Monster. The monster came up next to the bed and got down on his 4 paws, and Eric climbed on top of him, grabbing onto a handful of hair. Hang on now, the monster growled at him. They galloped all around the room many times as Eric giggled and with Eric giggling and bouncing up and down. Finally, the monster came to a halt and placed Eric back into his bed. Good night now, little boy, and thank you for the cookies, said the monster. Thank you for playing with me, said Eric. Will you come back tomorrow? I'll put out some more treats for you. The monster didn't say anything, but walked towards the door, stopped before leaving, and smiled at Eric. The next night, Eric zoomed to the bathroom. He washed up, brushed his teeth, and then hurried to put on his pajamas. Afterwards, he rushed off to the kitchen and said to his mom, "Look, Mommy, I'm all done. Now can I please have some cookies to give to the monster?" His mom studied him closely. Did you brush your teeth?" she said. "Yes, my breath is nice and minty," Eric said. "All right, then you can have some cookies for the monster," his mom said. He carried the cookies to his room, and Eric scurried under his covers. Eric's mom left the room. "Monster, monster, 1, 2, 3, won't you come out and play with me? And I have cookies for you." Once again, Eric heard a stomping sound, and there were loud crunching noises as the monster snacked on the cookies. "Yum, yum, chocolate chip, my favorite," said the monster. Eric hopped out of bed. "Mr. Monster, you're back! Will you play with me?" asked Eric eagerly, before remembering his manners. Please? Since these were good cookies. Sure. What do you want to play? The monster waited for Eric's reply. "How about hide and go seek?" Eric said. "Okay," said the monster, covering his eyes. 1, 2, 3... Wait, I'm not ready, Eric giggled. Eric hid under his bed. The monster found him. Then the monster hid in the laundry basket. Eric found him too. They played for a while before the monster said, "It's time for bed. Good night, little boy, and thank you for the cookies." "Thank you for playing with me," said Eric with a yawn, and the monster tucked Eric into bed and left. The monster's visits continued, and Eric became quite quick at washing up, brushing his teeth, and putting on his pajamas. He became so quick that his mom had to send him back to the bathroom because he still had soap bubbles in his hair. Whoops. One night, Eric went to the kitchen and asked for some more cookies to give to the monster. "I'm sorry, Eric, we don't have any more cookies. I'll make more tomorrow," said his mom. "What? But I wanted to play with the monster," exclaimed Eric. "Well, here are some apples. You can give these to the monster," his mom told him. "Besides, apples are healthier, and I happen to know that the monster loves them." "Okay," said Eric. Eric went to bed and snuggled under his blankets. "Monster, monster, 1, 2, 3, won't you come out and play with me?" Eric shouted before heading. "I don't have any cookies, but I do have some nice apples." Eric waited. Then there was the familiar stomping sound and the munching of apples. Eric pulled off the covers and grinned at the monster. "Yay, Mr. Monster! Let's play," said Eric. The monster swallowed a bite of apple. "And what shall we play tonight?" he asked. "Helicopter!" cried Eric, stretching his arms straight up. "Let's play helicopter, please." This is a huge room, by the way. He can play all these games in his little room. Big room. The monster picked Eric up by his arms and began turning on the spot. That's not safe. Don't do that. Eric let out a squeal as his feet were lifted off the ground. Whee! Said Eric. He did this several times before the monster's arms got tired and he plopped Eric down on the bed. Phew. Good night, little boy. Thank you for the apples, said the monster. Good night, and thank you for playing with me, Dad. I mean, Mr. Monster. Eric hurried to correct himself. He looked shamefully at the monster for having accidentally broken the game. But Eric's dad just smiled, kissed his son on the top of the head, and said, Sleep tight, son, and don't worry, I'm sure Mr. Monster will be back tomorrow, especially since Mommy's making a big batch of chocolate chip cookies. Don't lend a monster your favorite toy. Wait. Oh look, a pink splat. Hello, I'm a little blue fellow, and this is a book about why you should not lend toys to the monsters. Interesting. Don't lend a monster your favorite toy. Toy robot. Monster. Interesting. They shake it and break it. They do love to annoy. Shake, 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 stomp, stomp, stomp. They bash it. Fun. And trash it. Such joy. It gives them such joy. Crush. So remember now. Never. No. Never. Whatever the weather. Never lend a monster your favorite toy. No toys for monsters. Oops. And furthermore, don't lend a monster your favorite truck. It's a toy truck. They push it through the mud, and the wheels get all stuck. Uh-oh. Then you'll say, hey, my truck is covered in muck. Yay, muck. So remember now, never, no, if you want to be clever, don't ever lend a monster your favorite truck. Toy truck denied. And finally, don't lend a monster your favorite bike. Yep. They ride way too fast. They do whatever they like. And then they bash it to bits with a rock and a spike. Yep. So remember now. Never. Did he just say never? Yes. Now all together. Never, ever lend a monster your favorite bike. Monster plus bike equals no. You see, the thing I am saying, the point I contend, is that monsters are trouble from beginning to end. So, if you have some toys, and if you like to... if you have some toys, and if you like to lend, don't share with a monster. Share it with a friend. The end. Gazpacho for Nacho. In a big, big city by a large, bustling plaza lived a very small boy in a simple red casa. The name of this tiny muchacho was Nacho, and all he would eat was a soup called gazpacho. Gazpacho for breakfast, gazpacho for lunch, gazpacho for dinner, for snacks, and for brunch. He didn't like meat or the smell of pescado. He didn't like chicken or ice-cold helado. When he saw slices of manchego cheese, he asked, "Is there any gazpacho left, please?" Mummy would say, "You're a picky muchacho." Nacho would say, "But I just want gazpacho." At breakfast, he woke up the leche and churros. He cried, "Mommy, aye! This food is for burros." That means donkey. For snacks, Mommy sliced up chorizo and bread. Nacho asked for gazpacho instead. At lunchtime, Mommy served Spanish tortilla. Nacho would put the pan under his silla. He's making a mess. At dinner, Mommy fried mushrooms or setes and served them with rice next to crispy coquetes, and whipped up a custard dessert called a... Oops, I skipped a line. She filled up a bowl with fresh loaves of pan and whipped up a custard dessert she called flan. All of the food was rejected by Nacho. "Gazpacho, gazpacho," he cried. "Mas gazpacho." There wasn't a plato that Nacho would touch. Mommy grew tired of cooking so much. "Nacho," she cried, "it's not right. No es justo." Oops, justo. I can read. "No es justo. All of these meals are just not your gusto. You're coming with me to the market. We are shopping." "I'm learning to cook?" Nacho asked, his eyes popping. The market was bustling with people. People were looking for all the legumbres they needed for cooking. Nacho's mouth watered while gazing at piles of colorful vegetables stretched out for miles. Onions and potatoes, cebollas and papas, bamboo and spinach, bamboo espanatia. That was bad. Don't listen to that one. Can't. My brain is like, Cucumbers, mushrooms, pepinos, acetes, lettuce and lentils, chungue, lentejas. Yeah, I'm boring. Sorry. Corn, avocados, maize, aguacantes, cates. Keep adding an N in there that is not there. And last but not least, red, juicy tomatoes. Tomatoes! Or tomatoes, said Mommy. For you to cook, Nacho. You'll learn to prepare your beloved gazpacho. Ole! Nacho cried. I can cook. Yes, I can. And off to the puestos of veggies he ran. He gathered tomatoes that smelled fresh and clean, and found a pepino whose skin was dark green. Among all the colorful and fresh alimentos, he picked out a few crispy green pimientos. He added a small clove of garlic or ajo and set off home to begin el trabajo. That means the work. Dressing the part of a huge chef's sombrero, Nacho felt just like a true cocinero. Yeah, with bright red tomatoes piled up to his chin. He smiled. He looked up at Mommy and said, "Let's begin." They cored and sliced, they diced and they seeded the pounds of tomatoes and peppers they needed. Mommy then carefully chopped a cebolla, and Nacho helped, filling the finding a pot, a large olla. Nacho, said Mommy, I need a pino. He gave her the cucumber. What a good niño. Mommy then crumbled some bread in the pot and left it to soak till it softened a lot. They sprinkled some sal and it flew through the air. Ay, Nacho, cried Mommy. The bowl's over there. Lastly, she drizzled the very small drop of oil and vinegar over the top. She blended the soup in a big batidora and let it chill in the fridge for 1 hora. Hora. Sorry, that was 2 different languages. Dinner that night was a wonderful treat. Mama, Nacho, cried Mommy. Lasagna, come eat. Nacho rushed into the kitchen and saw the bowls of gazpacho still there in awe. Bowl after bowl after bowl of gazpacho, cooked by a clever, creative muchacho. He sat down to eat with a giant sonrisa and finished the soup very quickly, deprisa. Nacho was happy, but deep in his heart, and knew that gazpacho was only the start. He thought of the fresh, tasty meals he would make, the food he could cook, and the sweets he could bake. Eagerly off to the kitchen he dashed, where there were legumbres, vegetables, were stashed. Mommy, he said, though I love my gazpacho, I'm trying new recipes. Call me Chef Nacho. This is a recipe for gazpacho. Oh, this is a translation guide. Nice. The end. George, the hero hound. George was a good old hound dog. Every day, George was up even before the chickens to help old Farmer Fritz do the chores. That rust bucket tractor was always falling apart, and those wily cows were plotting to get out and feast on the cornfield. Thanks. That accent was by accident. It just comes out, and I have no control over it whatsoever. You should hear me do French, because I learned French when I was like 3, so it's there. Yeah. Just, it's how it works. Thanks. But George didn't mind a whit, as long as he got his afternoon nap. He had a good life for a hound dog. I was doing a Spanish one. By accident. I mean, it just happened. It was my Spanish accent when I was reading Gazpacho for Nacho. And his churros for his burro. Yep. Until the day old Farmer Fritz decided to retire and moved to a cabana on the beach where they didn't allow cows, they didn't allow pigs, sad to say, they didn't even allow dogs. No, the line is, you'll have a face. Con burro. Con burro, or something really terrible like that. That's from Despicable Me, the first one. How rude. They didn't even allow dogs. Sorry, boy. I need you to look after the farm. George was left in the dust. How rude. not for long. Soon, nothing could have prepared George for the Gladstone family. They'd packed up their noisy apartment in the city and bought the Fritz farm. Cows, pigs, George, and all. Look, we have a dog. I wonder what his name is. Can I name him? Oh, and keep an eye on your sister. I don't think Farmer Fritz was very nice. George could tell right away that the Gladstone family would be a whole heap of help. They would need a whole heap of help. There'd be no afternoon naps on the porch for a while. Could someone please hand me a wrench? Anyone? Anyone? Thanks. I can't figure out why this tractor won't start. Oh, that looks important. It works! Huzzah. Hi, Pooch. Didn't see you there. You're the same color as all these old parks. Maybe we should call you Rusty. Ah, stop that tractor! Crash! George watched as the tractor went clean through the fence, but he wouldn't let the cows get away on his watch. He spent the next couple of hours trying to herd those sneaky cows back into their pen, where they belonged. George was tuckered out. All he wanted was a cool drink of water, and to sneak in a few winks in the shade. Look at my floor. You're the dustiest dog. I had to call you Dusty. George was swept out of the house in a cloud of dust. How rude. George shook himself off and just paddled to his favorite shady spot when he spied something blue. Owen came running over. I was supposed to watch my baby sister, Olive. Can you help me find her, boy? George took a good sniff of Olive's ribbon. He was a hound dog, after all. And off they went. After searching high and low, they finally found that pint-sized rambler. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a cow showering in this waterfall. And there's one in a hot air balloon right here. Yep. Wow! Good boy. You tracked my sister across every corner of this farm. We ought to call you Rover. George had saved the day. As he trotted back home, George was sure he would finally, definitely get his well-deserved nap. Until... Crash! Splat! Red! Olive just said her first word. Maybe we should call you Red. From that day on, George still didn't get many afternoon naps. But he didn't mind too much. Turns out that he liked herding Olive a lot more than he liked herding the cows. And since George figured out the Gladstones needed some tips on how to run the farm, he vowed to teach them everything he knew, especially how to deal with those crafty cows. He even hatched a plan to drum up business. Hi there, George. Thanks for the delivery. Now, if only George could teach his new family one last thing. His name. The end. Jack's giant problem. Fairy tale frog. Remember the beanstalk that soared to the sky, and Jack, the young boy who climbed up it? Nope. Remember the beanstalk that soared to the sky, and Jack, the young boy who climbed up it to spy? I almost messed it up again. He found a vast land and a giant with gold, and Jack soon outfoxed him. Or so we've been told. You see, all those stories are really not true. You've heard of one beanstalk. I swear, there were two. Jack's mother, on finding their pantry was bare, raced out to find Jack with a look of despair. We've nothing to eat and no money for bread. I can't have us starving. Sell Daisy instead. Jack set off the next day, the cow at his side. He hadn't gone far when an old woman cried, "That cow looks quite friendly. I'm lonely, you see. If I give you beans, will you trade her with me?" "Some beans," sputtered Jack. "They are magic," she said. Jack eyed them with wonder, then shook his head. The woman was sad. "Well, if you change your mind, go straight through that wood, and my house lies behind." Jack watched as the woman put the beans back. He noticed a hole at the base of her sack. "I'll grab one," he schemed. "Then I won't have to pay." He snatched up a bean and led Daisy away. When Jack returned home after selling their cow, his mother was puffing while pulling the plow. "There's no need to work," Jack called out. "Come and see. As well as some gold, I've got some magic with me." His mother was puzzled. "What does the bean do?" Jack frowned in response. "I do not have a clue." He tinkered and tested the rest of the day, but, filled with frustration, he threw it away. That night, a huge beanstalk soared up into the sky. Jack jumped out of bed. He gave a glad cry. "We'll have beans for lunch. I shall climb to the top. I'll throw the beans down. Scoop them up when they drop." So Jack climbed up nimbly, and Jack climbed up quick. He climbed and he picked till the leaves grew quite thick. Jack pushed through the leaves and gaped at a sight. "A castle!" he gasped, and jumped up into light. Jack snuck to the castle, crept through the door. Then Jack stopped and stared, finding treasures galore. He greedily reached for a bag full of gold. Then he heard someone shout. He no longer felt bold. Jack frantically looked for a place he could hide. He spotted a jug and climbed quickly inside. But then he was baffled. Are those sounds of glee? He plucked up his courage and stood up to see. and there played a giant who was roaring and giggling and was tickling a baby, both squealing and wriggling. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an English Ben. That doesn't rhyme. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. That is the heck of a nursery rhyme. Jack stared in surprise till he heard "Time for dreams," then cringed at the sound of the baby's loud screams. The giant was calm. He just told the harp, "Play, harp, send Ben to sleep." Ben then slept right away. If I had that harp, Jack thought fast in his greed, I'd make people sleep, then steal all we need. That's not very nice. Jack tiptoed inside when the giant walked out. Then Jack snatched the harp, but the harp gave a shout. "Stop!" Jack sped from the castle. The giant gave chase. Jack looked back in fright as the giant kept pace. He hurled down the beanstalk, the harp in his arm. His mother looked up with the greatest alarm. "Oh, Jack, race down nimbly. Oh, Jack, race down quick. I'll cut down that beanstalk. That should do the trick." The poor giant watched as Jack landed below, but hearing Ben's screams, he turned slowly to go. So life got tough in the land in the sky, and Ben no longer slept. He would just fuss and cry. Far below, things were now easy for Jack. He stole all he could, And he brought Daisy back. His mother received their new wealth with surprise. Jack dodged all her questions by making up lies. But Jack wanted more, so he set out one day. The giant has gold. I need beans right away. He searched through the old woman's house while she slept and cheered when he found where all the beans were kept. But Jack was now nosy. And Jack was now slow. He pried and he prodded, in no rush to go. The next day, a new beanstalk soared to the sky. Jack slipped from his house without saying goodbye. Away in the distance, the witch set out too. That boy has a problem. A lesson is due. Jack's mother went pale when the witch shared her news. She raced after Jack, not a moment to lose. The witch turned to leave. Then she smiled at the cow. I've paid with my beans, so I'll take you home now. Jack searched for the giant, then made the harp play. He felt pangs of guilt, but he pushed them away. He grabbed the gold, and he whooped in delight. But, hearing his mother, he froze out of fright. Jack Winifred Jones, it is time you confess. That giant's exhausted. Just look at this mess. And now you get to work, while I try to explain how your thoughtless choices have caused others pain. The castle was gleaming. Jack now understood. He stopped the harp playing, preparing to make good. The giant woke up and he stretched, satisfied, then stared at the spick-and-span castle, wide-eyed. I'm sorry, Jack trembled, for what you went through. I thought of myself and did not think of you. The giant looked guarded, but Ben answered back. He cooed and he giggled, and he reached out for Jack. Jack won back their trust with the lesson he learned, and Ben loved Jack so dearly, they never returned. The days were filled with merriment more than ever. Or more than before, I can read. The castle resounded with giggling once more. E, I, oo, I spell vag bug ov an Ingmishmung. The end. The Littlest Dragon. Danny was the littlest dragon. He lived in a grand cave on the side of Crystal Mountain with his parents. He had scales that shone like gems, eyes brighter than the moon, and a long, pointy tail. Like all dragons, he could spit fireballs and fly. Dragons lived in every part of the magical land of Tazilka. Some, like Danny, lived in the mountains. Others lived in the forest. Some even lived underwater. Wherever they lived, the dragons were always the biggest and scariest creatures around. And all the other creatures, the unicorns, the mermaids, the ice cats, would hide when they came near. Every year, the young dragons would gather in a great field and compete in the dragon game. The grass in the great field was almost as tall as Danny was. The oldest dragon, Julius, dictated the game's rules. This year, the game was a scavenger hunt. Each dragon would be given a list of items to collect. Whoever found all the items, the fastest, would win. The prize was a big, shiny gold trophy covered in glowing jewels. Danny stared at the trophy in awe. I'm going to win this year, he said. I'm going to find the items on the list the fastest. The other bigger dragons laughed. You're not going to win, one of them said with a sneer. You're the littlest dragon. You can't fly as fast as we can because your wings are so small. And the other creatures don't listen to you because you're not scary. You'll never get them to hand over the items on the list. Danny sighed as he looked at the list. It was true. He wasn't scary like the other dragons. He liked making friends with the other creatures, instead of frightening them. The items on his list all belonged to other creatures. A unicorn hair, a mermaid's shell, and an ice cat and an ice cat's bell. Oofty. He knew the other dragons would roar and scare the other creatures into handing over the items. He didn't want to be that mean. The dragons lined up in the great field and waited for the signal to begin the dragon game. Dragons, are you ready? Julius asked. The dragons raised their heads and roared, "Yes, we are!" "Good," Julius said. "On your mark, get set, go!" The dragons took off like lightning, filling the sky with their magnificent colors. Danny, however, stayed in the field. The great field was the home of Winky, the littlest unicorn. Danny knew that Winky was still around here somewhere, just hiding from the other dragons. "Winky," Danny called, "the other dragons are gone. Are you around?" The little white unicorn with gleaming horn rose up out of the grass where he had been hiding. "Yes," he said, "I'm here." Danny hesitated, then said, "I'd really like to win the dragon game this year. The first item on our list is a unicorn's hair. Would you mind giving me one?" Winky smiled. "Of course. You're my friend, and I'd love to help. I have plenty of hairs on my tail." Danny accepted the hair and tucked it into the pouch he carried around his neck. "Thank you, Winky," he said. The next item on the list was a mermaid's shell. Danny spread his little wings and flew toward the ocean. The other dragons had flown so far ahead they looked like colorful specks in the sky. Danny landed on the beach and found one of the big dragons already there. "Don't bother with these mermaids," the big dragon said. "They've all gone into hiding. I've searched and searched, but I can't find any. I'm going to another part of the ocean." The dragon even gave a little disappointed snort and flew away. Danny waited for the dragon to leave, then dove into the ocean. "Miranda," he called, "it's me, Danny." The littlest mermaid, who had long hair and a sparkling tail, emerged from an underwater cave. She had a glimmering bag on her shoulder. "Is the big dragon gone?" she asked. "Yes," Danny replied. "It's just me." Miranda crossed her arms and said, "He was trying to steal my shells." He thought that by roaring and being scary, I would hand them over. But my shells are precious to me. I wasn't going to let him take one. "Could I please borrow one?" Danny asked. "I promise I'll bring it right back. I'd really like to win the dragon game this year." Miranda smiled. "Since it's you who's asking, here you go," she said. She pulled a gleaming shell out of her bag and placed it in Danny's pouch. "Thank you," Danny said. He flew out of the water and sailed towards the mountains. The next item on his list was an ice cat's bell. Danny was friends with Lilia, the littlest ice cat. He hoped she would help him. The ice cats lived at the peak of Crystal Mountain in a glittering palace of ice. The biggest dragons already surrounded the place. "Give me your bells," one of the dragons roars. "Give us your bells," one of the dragons roared, "or we'll blow fire at your palace and melt it." The ice cat queen flew out of the palace on her crystal wings. "No," she cried. "If you melt our palace, you'll anger the spirit of Crystal Mountain, and he'll make all your caves collapse. Now, be gone." The dragons snorted in disappointment. "Scavenger hunt was a terrible idea," one of them grumbled. "None of the other creatures are cooperating." And they flew off. A little voice below Danny whispered. Danny looked and saw Lilia crouching in an ice cave. looking up with her bright blue eyes. Her fur was so white she almost blended into the snow that surrounded her. She had a jeweled collar with a little silk bell on it. Danny flew down to Lilia and crouched in the snow beside her. "Lilia," he said, "I'm sorry about the other dragons. I keep telling them to stop being mean, but they never listen." "I know," Lilia said, "but I think that if you win the game this year, you'll teach them a lesson. That's why I'm going to let you borrow this." She took the bell off her collar and placed it in Danny's pouch. "Thank you," Danny said. "Now I have all 3 items on the list. If I get back to the great field first, I'll have 1. He spread his little wings and zoomed down the Crystal Mountain, speeding toward the great field. By the time Danny reached the great field, the other dragons had returned. They surrounded Julius and yelled angrily. "This year's game wasn't fair," one of them shouted. "Everything on the list belonged to other creatures, and they wouldn't listen to us. Nobody got any of the items." Danny held up his pouch. "I did," he exclaimed triumphantly. He took out the items one by one to show them. A hair from my unicorn friend Winky, a shell from my mermaid friend Miranda, and a bell from my ice cat friend Lilia. Julius beamed. "Excellent, Danny." Julius turned Julius turned sternly to the other dragons. "And to the rest of you. Let this be a lesson. I'm tired of receiving complaints from the other creatures about your behavior. Just because you are big and strong doesn't mean you can bully the other creatures. The reason Danny won and you lost is because Danny is friendly. Do you understand?" The other dragons bowed their heads and murmured, "Yes, we understand." Julius handed the big, shiny gold trophy to Danny. "Congratulations, you are the winner of this year's dragon game." "Thank you, sir." "Thank you," Danny exclaimed. He grinned as he accepted the trophy. The other dragons clapped and cheered. Danny flew back to his cave, where his parents were waiting. Their eyes widened when they saw the trophy. "You won!" Papa Dragon exclaimed. "Congratulations, son." "We're so proud of you," Mama Dragon said with a smile. Mama Dragon and Papa Dragon proudly placed Danny's trophy in the center of the cave, where it could always be seen. They were even prouder when Danny told them how he had won. "Julius is very wise," Mama Dragon said. "And so are you, my son." Danny yawned. It had been a long day, and the moon had risen over Crystal Mountain. It was too late to do any more flying. Tomorrow, he would return Miranda's shell and Lilia's bell. He curled up in the corner of the cave, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. The end. Good night, good night. Thank you all for coming, and I can't wait until next week. We'll talk to you then. I hope you all have a great week. And we'll see you next time.